Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bed Tech Show. We are your hosts, Ben and Ethan. Going to be discussing some tech news here at bedtime. We're really excited for this episode. Thanks for everyone's patience. We took a couple of weeks off. I had a family emergency come up, so we appreciate all of you that have stuck with us and are listening to our content. And with that, we'll get right into it. Looks like Amazon is warning employees about ChatGPT and the implications of it. So, here in the article, ChatGPT has been making tech industry sweat, and seems like some confidential material from Amazon's internal network has been put into ChatGPT. And according to screenshots from Slack messages reviewed by the outlet, guidance from their legal counsel witnessed ChatGPT's response mimicking internal Amazon data, and counsel from Amazon requested heavily for Amazon employees not to put confidential material into ChatGPT. There was another article that I read stating that Amazon thinks that this is a great tool and it should be used, but when it comes to confidential material to be used in it, that would not be allowed. This is pretty interesting. With this, we start getting into and non-disclosure agreements being broken, confidential material being leaked, and it may not even be intentional, but ChatGPT is learning about it and storing that information.
Yeah, and spitting it back out.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of the scary thing that I can see from, company standpoint is you have proprietary information or code that makes you unique. You submit it to make sure the code is, working right or accurate. Chat GPT does a check, says, oh yeah, it looks good. And then some Joe Schmo is like, hey, write me a search engine algorithm for a new marketplace I'm building around, whatever it is. And it spits me out Amazon's code for their algorithm of marketplace. It's like, oh, sick. This is awesome. I'm going to take this and use it. And it's like, Amazon's like, wait, hold up. That's our code.
Yeah.
Like I can see how that is pretty sketchy. I can understand where Amazon's coming from. I'm sure they're like, yeah, use it to make your life more efficient. If you need ideas on things, if you need, copy for, some things that you're building for your internal documents or whatever it might be, feel free to use ChatGPT. I think everyone should take advantage of it. I don't understand people who want to restrict using tools like this that don't have this kind of information.
Right.
So it is a little scary that they're storing it. And this is a beta. This is beta, right? And in my
Yeah.
opinion, beta means they're absorbing everything. They're absorbing any kind of usage, any kind of input, and they're going to be using that and leveraging it to make a better version, most likely paid, right?
Yes. I know this is Chat GPT 3. They've got Chat GPT 4 in the works already. Just learning based off of this, and it's going to have significantly more parameters and be a huge leap forward from what this is. And this is already a huge leap forward in technology
Yeah.
and what it's capable of.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. The fact that it's disclosing this confidential information to other people is wild. And you know it kind of brings me to a thought, like, because with code there's a copyright into it. There could be, also trademark with it. There could also be a patent with that code, so that gets into a lot of infringement that potentially Chat GPT could be infringing on that without anybody like forcefully doing that. And how do you ha- I guess, how do you hold Chat GPT accountable for that when it's doing stuff on its own without realizing it, type of a
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I want to say in Chat GPT, there's some kind of I want to say in like their FAQ or in their about section, they have a disclosure that says anything that Chat GPT pumps out is ownership of Chat GPT, and you can't use that for your own business purpose. I can't remember exactly, but I want to say there's something along those lines. And that doesn't necessarily it doesn't directly correlate to your question. It doesn't directly answer your question of how does Chat GPT and OpenAI protect themselves against any kind of lawsuit, but it does give them a little bit of protection saying, hey, yeah, so we did accidentally, disclose this information to other people, but legally they're not allowed to do that based on what we've disclosed to them. Technically it's
Right.
everything that we own. And I don't know. I can see a little bit of defense there, but I don't think, I think you bring up a valid point. The more that AI is used, the more input it's going to get and the more available answers it can push out to the users. And as a result, shared information is going to be more broadly shared, or
Right.
private information will be broadly shared. Um, I don't know if there's a way to stop that. Maybe they have two different types of input stations. One is, uh, like a private version of your browser, but it's a private version of Chat GPT where the information won't be stored. The history of the conversation will not be stored, but it will still be able to tap into the answers to give you an answer to what you're asking, right?
Right.
Maybe that's how they do it. I don't know. That it's these are really good questions that I think are a result of blazing a new trail
Uh-huh.
into the world of AI. These are new encounters, new problems that we don't necessarily have the answers to. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that, as we go through, gonna need to think about those implications and hopefully get ahead of them before it gets ahead of us, essentially. Um,
yeah, yeah,
with this, it seems like to me, I think Chat GPT is just exploding and it's it's growing at such an exponential rate. I mean, now this is even in mainstream news media. Um, I believe my in-laws, I saw them watching the news and it was talking about Chat GPT on that and they were wondering what it is. And I'm like, oh yeah, I use that for work and personal stuff all the time.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. Were you in the conversation? I can't remember if you were or not. It was late night gaming with Dylan, and there was like I did something in the game. We were playing Warzone 2, and I did something in the game. And at the end of the game, when we all died, right? Whatever.
Mm.
And Dylan sent me a poem over the text, like the group text of who was in our chat. And I was like, "Oh, did you pull that from Chat GPT?" Because it was a phenomenal poem. It was a phenomenal poem. I should bring it up. I'm gonna read it to you right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna I'm gonna read it to you right now. It was a phenomenal poem about me playing Warzone 2, and I'm like, "There's no way Dylan just did this." Um, he like read it to us, and it was like, Dylan, there's no way that you just did that. And so I called him out. I was like, that was Chat GPT, wasn't it? And he's like, yeah, it was. Hold on, let me see here. I'm pulling it up. Give me a sec.
Right. Yeah, that I mean, it's insane at how fast that it can do things that would take a little bit of time and effort.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, he was like, yeah, I just asked it to make me a poem about like, he like put the inputs like Ben, Warzone 2. I can't remember what it was. Where is this? Maybe it's in the, maybe it's in the coop chat.
I
Where
don't
is
think it was
it?
because I didn't see it in there.
Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, I got it. Okay. This is the poem. Bonsai Ben, a thrill seeker true, on waves he'll ride with skill anew. Surfing's his game in ocean blue, he'll catch a wave and ride it through. But when the snow starts to fall, Bonsai Ben on his board will crawl. Down mountain slopes he'll fiercely ball. With grace and style he'll snowboard tall. And when the day is done and the sun has set, Bonsai Ben will heed the call of duty. With the RPK he'll make the bet. to be the one who'll never fret. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
Just like make me a poem,
Yeah.
and just give the inputs. I saw like related to that. I saw an article or like a reel or TikTok of a guy. He's like, everyone's using Chat GPT wrong. Get your kids' names, and it's like, that's like personal information, whatever. But it's like general names, first names,
Yeah.
last name with your address or whatever. Get your kids' names. Say like, write me a short story about, Ben and Ethan fighting with Spider-Man against, Doc Ock or the Lizard or whatever, and it will write a bedtime story for you
Yeah.
with your kids with Spider-Man. And I'm like, that's genius. Like, why am I not doing that? That's so smart.
Yeah. Now we never have to make up bedtime stories.
Yeah, and then you can make like ebooks about that.
Yeah.
It's so wild. So yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
Like I was telling my coworkers about it today because they hadn't really known what the hype is all about. And I'm like, the short answer is like you could tell it to create a commercial lease agreement for between a landlord and tenant for 5 years for $40,000 a month. And it will spit out every part, including the boilerplate language. And then on top of that, you could say, modify the indemnity clause to be solely favorable to the landlord. And it will completely rewrite the contract to fit that indemnity clause in it.
That's so
And
crazy.
and I reviewed the contract after that. And I'm like, for a first draft for something that had very minimal input, this is a really good contract.
It's
And
insane.
so, and so now with that, that's like where my go-to for just like first drafts of contracts that I make.
Yeah. See, that's a lot heavier lifting than what I use it for. I use it for very simple things. But that's crazy that I can do the heavy lifting of things, right? It's like, all right, I don't want to do the grunt work of having to comb through every section of a contract and build it. Let's just put the inputs and have Chat GPT do it, and then we can review it, make adjustments as needed. It's just going to make things so much more efficient. It is
Yeah.
making things more efficient.
Yeah. And we've said this in previous episodes before, like I don't think this is going to completely replace humans yet, but it is going to differentiate people, regular people, from people that do their work with Chat GPT.
100%. I agree. I agree 100%. I was I watched another. I'm on social media a lot, so I watched another reel, and it was an executive female, and not that that matters, but she was talking about how like she's like, I'm an older generation, and I realize that millennials and Gen Z, they don't put up with inefficiency. Like they don't want to deal with it. If I tell them like, hey, all right, make 2 copies of that, send one over to me, file the other one. If you can, put tabs on it, and like all this crap that was like former organizational skills. Like she said, like the feedback I get is like, I don't need to do that. I have my own phone. I can scan it myself. I can quickly upload it to a Google Drive, and it's there stored, no problem. And I can back it up to another website like Dropbox or whatever, no problem. All on my phone like that, right?
Mhm.
And she's like, my leadership now, it's more of very, very, very high level ownership and leadership, and just approving and having discord with my employees beneath me, because they come to me with their ideas, they come to me with their insights on how to make things more efficient, and I'm just like, that's genius. Okay, sure. Or maybe we can make it adjustments here and there. But the point is, our generation does not put up with inefficiency. And so
Right.
I think that's where there's like head bashing between boomers who are used to like, no, you have to grind, you have to do this, you have to do it in this certain way. And it's like, I don't think you understand. There's much more efficient ways of accomplishing your end goal without doing all that grind work.
Yeah.
And anyway, Chat GPT is the next step in that.
Yeah. I completely agree.
AI in general.
Yeah, AI in general. I mean, this is going to be this is the way of the future, whether we like it or not.
The
And
way of the future.
we've got to learn how to utilize it and deal with it rather than running away from it,
Oh yeah,
which
100%.
which I think some people who are like really apprehensive of this are just apprehensive because they don't understand its capabilities and how useful it can be.
Yeah, I agree. And I
So,
think, like what I said before, was I jumped on Chat GPT too late, in my opinion.
yeah,
Not too
I
late,
did too.
later than I should have. And when I started using it, I thought, this is so fun. This is insane. Like, it's so fun just to test things out, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I had to do a couple things for work, like build a couple decks. And I'm like, how would I explain this like in a really clear way? And I'm like, give me 3 sentence simplified terminology to explain X. And I like dumped whatever I was doing, and then it spat it out for me. I was like, oh, that's cool. I switched a few words around, like I
Mhm.
put in my specific lingo I wanted, but it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of shifts from being a content creator to like a to an editor. Like, it creates the initial content and then we're here just to edit it and make it a little bit more efficient. I mean, yeah, I wish I had learned about this a lot sooner. I mean, I'm using it for work all the time. I've had it create trainings for me, contracts, all sorts of things. Summarizing regulations. It it's pretty wild.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy, isn't it?
so I'm excited for the future and excited for what this brings.
Yep.
All right. With excitement, we have another big breakout of something that Tesla's doing. Looks like Tesla is coming out, finally making big on their promise and leaked their Magic Dock CCS adapter in the mobile app ahead of the imminent opening of its supercharger network to North America. So Tesla has already opened up their supercharger network in Europe to all EVs, not just Teslas. And they had promised to do this in North America by the end of last year, and that didn't happen. However, it looks like it is going to be imminent, and they are going to be opening up their supercharger network to all EVs, adding like another revenue source for Tesla with all EVs. So they're going to be adding this CCS connector, which is kind of the standard. I guess in the industry, it's what's known as the standard, even though there are more Teslas than any other EV in America. So their plug would technically be standard. However, that's neither here nor there. So they're going to be adding the standard connector to allow non-Teslas to utilize superchargers, thereby being able to charge at up to 250 kilowatts per hour, which is pretty insane. So with this, I have pretty mixed feelings on it, but I wanted to get your opinion
Yeah,
on
I don't.
this.
Yeah, I don't have a Tesla. I think this is good news. Um, and I also think, you know, it's another revenue source for Tesla. I'm curious to know what they're going to charge per kilowatt, and like what's the total cost of a charge going to be, and which vehicles require more charge. How much of a difference is that? Because then it turns into, an economic scale,
Mhm.
like it is currently with gas and mileage. Um, because I don't think previously this was that big of a deal. When number one, you have a limited option, you've had a limited option in EVs to buy. Okay. And now, and of those limited options, I don't think the cost to charge was really that big of an impact or a factor, because you're at home, everyone's like, whatever, just adds to my electricity bill. I don't
Yeah.
really think buying, the new F-150 Ford Lightning versus the Model 3, I don't think that's really going to I don't really care much of a difference there. But now that if you're on the road and you don't find those free charging areas, like at a mall or whatever, now that you're getting faster charging at a cost, I think people are now going to be considering, well, does the F-150 Lightning require a longer, bigger charge than the Model 3, and how much so? What's the difference there? In a long term, is that going to impact my cost? Um, but from Tesla's strategic standpoint, I personally think this is a good move. I just want them to see, I want to see more infrastructure built. That's the main
Yeah.
reason why I'm holding off of
Me
buying an
too.
EV, just because. I just don't feel like there's so much demand for EVs right now. We don't have enough infrastructure.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. There's definitely not enough infrastructure. I think from a business, I agree with you from a business standpoint for Tesla, this is a great move. As a consumer, I'm I'm a little apprehensive of this. I own a Tesla. I rarely go to superchargers, just anytime that I go on a road trip. And there have been instances where I've been on a road trip and gone to a supercharger and they've been all full, and I've had to wait for a little bit of time just because other people were charging. Now,
Yep.
if we add all the other EVs to that mix, that could potentially make it worse. I mean, being in Utah and going up through like Idaho, Montana, and Washington, there's not a whole lot of traffic at those superchargers. But when you get down to like Salt Lake or into California, where there are a lot of
Vegas.
Teslas, yeah, in Vegas, there is a ton of demand for these superchargers.
Yep.
And there's usually heavy wait times with just Teslas. And so adding other EVs could potentially impact somebody else's experience with a Tesla and charging.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I saw this firsthand. You made a really good point. I was driving from California to back home to Utah, and we stopped at a place called Eddie World, and it's like this huge gas station convenience store in the middle of the desert. It's like, there's like the largest Chevron in North America on that road.
Mhm.
Eddie World's like that. It's just this massive place with a bunch of food and stores and whatnot inside. And it probably had, I want to say 20 to 30 charge stations. Um, and all full, all with a wait, all with a wait, at
Oh dear.
least 1 to 2 cars deep, at least. And they're all Teslas. Well, there may have not been Teslas because I don't think it was. No, it was. It was a Tesla supercharging, I'm pretty sure. And I just was blown away. I'm like, man, everyone's charging here. It's crazy. There was there were so many EVs just waiting to go there. 18 Tesla and 6 charge point. Okay.
Okay.
So 18 Tesla charging,
Mhm.
6 mix, right? So, like I said, 20 to 30, that's right there. That's, 24. Um, and all of them were full with cars waiting. It just blew my mind.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
And also, so Tesla's the way they design their vehicles, the charge port is on the rear driver's side. Um, with Tesla superchargers, generally you back into the stall, you're able to plug right in. The way that they have their supercharger built, it's built for the rear port of a car. You have these other EVs, they put their charge ports haphazardly on any place on the car. Some are in the very front tip, or some are on the front right headlight, or some are on the left by the driver's side door. They could be anywhere. So if you get these other EVs going, they're going to have to pull in and park in other ways that could um, disrupt how somebody else would park next to another stall.
Yeah, not uniform. So they're like
Yeah,
they're like horizontal, partially blocking the 2 stalls on the other side. It's like, listen, bum, like, what are you doing horizontal? Back into it, but they can't because of the plug.
right.
That's a really good point. It's pretty
And
universal, right, for the rest of gas cars, left side,
yeah,
right side, rear.
mhm. Yeah, so, I mean, with EVs, I don't know why they decided to put the charge port somewhere else. It's probably the way that the battery is built and everything, that was the most convenient place. Nevertheless, it will be interesting with, supercharging network and how they will be able to do that. As well, um, the last road trip that I went on, it was almost more expensive to do supercharging than it was to fill up a combustion engine
Wow.
on the
No
way
way.
there. Yeah.
No way.
Um, I guess the price per kilowatt hour has risen so much within the last couple of years with the demand of EVs that it is now costing more to charge your EV at a supercharger than it would be to drive a combustion engine for a road trip.
Wow.
So, I mean, that benefit of an EV is no longer a benefit now. It's not cheaper than a gas vehicle in the long run.
Yeah. Wow. That's
So,
crazy.
um, interesting stuff here. And, it from from a business standpoint, I think it's a good move, a right move for them. But as a consumer, I'm a little apprehensive of it.
I'm looking at what Eddie World charges because that's like a pretty hot spot, like
Mhm.
you have no options. So they know that like they kind of have somewhat of a monopoly. 30 cents per kilowatt.
30 cents per kilowatt.
Yeah, I wonder how much that is. Like,
Ooh.
let's see here. DFC 45 cents per kilowatt, 58 cents peak times.
Oh,
$6 an hour to park after the first 90 minutes. Wow. 58 cents per kilowatt.
okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
for me, if it was 45 cents per kilowatt, I have a 75 kilowatt hour battery on my vehicle. It would be $34 to charge up from 0 to full. Granted, I wouldn't ever be at 0 and I wouldn't ever really go up to 100%, but yeah, most I would pay would be $34,
Got it.
which
Yeah.
is
Wow.
pretty much,
That's getting there.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure when I was at the pump yesterday, I want to say I paid under 40 or right around 40. So like that's not far off, man.
Yeah, it's not far off.
A couple of years
And
ago, that's right on. That's
yeah,
right on.
that was right on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's getting a little out of hand. Not a fan of it.
Yeah, it makes me I've thought about this like how much capital do I need to build a couple of like these EV gas stations, but like change the dynamic of the gas station. It's, an electric charge station and you build the electric charge station to be around longer term experiences than just a convenience store.
Mhm.
So people are going to be waiting 20 minutes, 30 minutes or whatever. I don't know how long it takes, but you build the experiences at this station while they're waiting for their EV to charge. They can do things, right? They can
Yeah.
play that like an arcade or something,
Yeah.
arcade. And then in the back, you just have heaps and heaps and piles and loads of freaking solar panels
Yes.
to charge it all. So it's just like
Yeah.
pass through energy.
Yeah. That's what I would love. Because I mean, generally, like when I go to a supercharger, it's near a gas station or near some podunk restaurant that it has terrible food. And so
Yeah.
or a fast food restaurant that's not that great either. So you have limited options, but building something that has a better experience would make it a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah, that's my thought. I think that'd
Yeah.
be a smart thing to do. It's just a matter of like getting the capital and making sure you're profitable, right?
Yeah. And
So
yeah, so it'd have to be a way that they would spend money while they're there.
yeah, in addition to the electricity they're getting.
Yes. So
Crazy.
in other good news, looks like 007 is coming to Xbox and the Switch. Hallelujah. It's been a time and a season, and it's about time for this to come back. So, Goldeneye 007 is finally landed on Xbox and Nintendo Switch in a dual release of the two titles for some important differences. On Xbox, GoldenEye is remastered of the legendary N64 title. It includes 4K resolution. Meanwhile, Nintendo has released 007 as part of the Nintendo Switch online service, where N64 games were added to the service in 2021. So, though you have to splurge for Switch Online and expansion tiers to get the access, nevertheless, it is here and it is available to play. I played it about 10 minutes before we started this podcast after I saw that this article came out, and it was a lot of fun.
Dude, that's awesome. I didn't know it was already released. I thought it was releasing tomorrow, but I
Yeah,
guess it's today.
yeah. I looked at the Xbox Game Store and it's on Game Pass and you can play it. So,
That's sick. That's sick. I
and
gotta download it.
yeah, and if you're on your computer, you can utilize gaming, which is good as cloud gaming can be. Nevertheless, you can enjoy it on your PC as well to some extent.
That's awesome. Yeah. This is like one of the only games my wife ever enjoyed. This and Mario Kart. Now that the
Really?
fact that we have Goldeneye like on the Xbox, I'm like, hey, now you can play games with me. Like,
Yes.
I'm just like imagining me and my wife and my son all just trying to like kill each other on Goldeneye. Like that sounds like a really good family night, you know?
Yes, it does. And since you can do online multiplayer now with it, you know, we could I don't know whether my I don't think my wife's ever played this, but you know, we could get the whole coop and the boys on it
Dude,
for good
so fun.
good family date night.
Good family date night. Yeah, that's right. That'd be so fun. Yeah, it'd be a
So
good time. Yeah, so I'm really stoked about this. I don't know about you, but like sometimes when I go play like really nostalgic games, I look back, I'm like, dang, this is not what it was.
yes,
But
that's
I still think this will be fun. I still think it'll be a good time. Like it'll be the music will make it super nostalgic, and
mhm.
then just the maps and everything. When the N64 came out, I thought graphics were just unbelievable, so realistic. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at like the article and it's just like a screenshot and I'm like, this is so blocky and
Yeah.
square but it's still fun. It's so cool. It's a piece of my childhood I can share with my kids. So
Yeah. It and then paintball mode will be there. My favorite
oh,
mode on GoldenEye. That was the best.
I forgot about paintball mode. How could I forget that? Oh my gosh, that's gonna be so awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, the original paintball mode. Oh,
Yes. I mean,
so sick.
before this came out, we had to resort to Perfect Dark, and Perfect Dark was an okay game. Replaying it again, and not my favorite, but it did have paintball mode in it. But now that this is out, have the original paintball mode
Yeah,
and
so stoked.
get to play with Odd Job.
Yeah, doesn't he throw his hat? I remember him
Yes.
throwing his hat to kill people.
Yes.
That's the most ridiculous thing.
Yep.
So ridiculous.
I guess it's better than a shoe because who throws a shoe?
That's right.
Oh,
Well, cool.
awesome.
Should be fun.
Yeah, pretty excited for that. In other rare news, looks like there is a 50,000 year comet come to that we will be able to see from the naked eye. So
Yes.
go ahead and break this one down for us, Ben.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is like my very much nerd side. I love, for those who have listened, I love planes. I love things in the sky. I love stuff in the space, stuff in space, not in the space, stuff in space. And I first saw this because there's a guy on social media that I follow. His name's Astro Kobe. If you want to go check him out, he always talks about really cool things. But he said there's a comet coming. He said it's like a month and a half ago. There's a comet coming, and it's going to be so close to Earth that we can see with the naked eye. And it's been like 50,000 years since we've seen a comet like this. And I think it's like in the top 4 or 5 closest comets passing by Earth. So it's pretty significant. Okay. And you can go see it with the naked eye, but you'll even be able to see it better if you have like a telescope or something. And you can buy a telescope off Amazon for $30. And that's what I'm thinking about doing. But February 1st, which is next week, that's when this will be peak visibility. They recommend that you go late at night away from the city, obviously, to a really dark place. You see the stars better. There's no light pollution. And the idea is you can see its glow. There's already photographers who are getting good shots of the glow of this comet. And just know that February 1st is like the peak time to go see this. So um
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Some of the stats in here are pretty gnarly. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it just says like, other long period comets may take up to 250,000 years to revisit the center of the solar system, which is like, it's just kind of hard to grasp that, numbers are so big that you don't really know what that's like, in relativity to your lifespan. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Even 50,000 years, right? Think about 50,000 years ago, like what was the earth like back then? And so just to think this truly is a once in a
Yeah.
lifetime opportunity. Um, this article answers a lot of cool questions. I didn't read through all of it, but yeah, it's just pretty cool. I don't know. I get fascinated at the fact that there's like these massive things floating in space, just passing by us. Like, where are they from? How long have they been floating? Like, what is the substance? What is it made out of? How do they
Yeah.
get to be this big? These are all these questions that blow my mind. So
Yeah. I mean, this is really cool that, you're going to be at least have the opportunity to see it with your naked eye. I mean, usually sometimes with these, you have to have a telescope to even kind of see it. But
yeah,
the fact that it's going to be this big and this close is extremely awesome. And yeah, the whole once in a lifetime thing, this is really it. I mean, 50,000 years.
yeah, like your
Definitely.
kids aren't even going to be have this opportunity.
Yes. So, yeah, this is gonna be really cool, and I'm pretty excited since I live out in Narnia that there's no other lights out this way. I'll be able to probably have a good view of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like I live, west of the bigger city, southwest of the big city of Salt Lake. And so if I just take, half-hour drive further west, I'm like in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like in a valley that's pretty open with like very minimal light pollution. So I'm hoping to go out there, February 1st. I'm like debating taking my kids, gonna be because it'll be so late, but it'll be so sick for them to see, it'll be so cool for them to see.
Yeah.
So I probably will take him just because it's like this is 50,000 years we're talking about. What the heck? They're
Yeah.
never gonna see
They're
this.
they're never gonna see that again.
Make it fun like late night, get hot chocolate, have
Mhm.
a good time.
Yeah, so this is pretty cool. I if anybody has the opportunity, definitely recommend going to see it.
Yeah, and if you do, come back to this podcast, post your pictures or like
Yeah.
whatever you got. Like share what you see because that'd be sick.
Yeah, share your comments. We'd love to hear that. Love to see your pictures of it. I'm planning on taking my camera out to snap a few pics. So
Yeah, definitely.
have to get a good tripod with some low light functions. But
Open
yeah,
that shutter.
yes, open it up all night. All right. Should we get into the PS5 Pro?
Yes. Yeah. The PS5 Pro. Dang, dude. Dude. One thing I was like, there's no way, bro. What the freak? I think you know what
So
I'm talking about.
yeah, so this is interesting. PlayStation is going to be coming out with the PS5 Pro that's going to be launching as soon as April of this year. The PS5 has already been extremely hard for consumers to get in general. Um, Probably most people are finally starting to get their hands on a PS5 as stock is more available. I mean, I was in Target the other day and I actually saw one just sitting on the shelf. So I was like, oh, stock's coming back. And now, people are finally getting it and they're coming out with the PS5 Pro. And looks like they're not just doing a slim, but they're going to be offering a performance boost, probably with the new AMD chip. And there's going to be a liquid cooling element, which would be prone to failure if it stood upright. However, they are yet to experience any of the PS5 units um, that have had similar problems. So,
Yeah. I think the liquid cooling kind of blows me away. Um, I don't I mean I don't know of liquid cooling in any of the consoles. Is there liquid cooling in the current PS5?
I think there is because there have been reports of people who stand it. stand the consoles vertically have had issues with it failing.
You're probably
And
doing typing.
so liquid metal as your barrier between your CPU and the cooler is going to be significantly better than thermal paste because it'll be able to transfer that heat a lot faster.
Yeah.
However, the downside is if it does come off the CPU plate from your heat sink and off of the CPU chip and touch any part of the circuitry in the motherboard, that will short circuit the board and render it useless. So you have to be extremely careful when using liquid metal. And from my experience, I've always shied away from saying that it's a viable solution when there are really good thermal paste applications that will come similarly close to it and get you really good results.
Yeah. So I think the PS as you were explaining that, I was looking it up, and to kind of support what you're saying, PlayStation 5 does use liquid metal to cool, um, based on an article in October 2020. It says PlayStation 5 uses liquid metal. Here's why that's cool. But the actual PS5 Pro is going to have a different liquid cooling. Well,
Yeah, it might have like a water cooling
yeah, I think it's water
solution.
cooled. That's what it says. It says Sony will launch PS5 Pro in April 2023 with liquid cooling. A brand new cooling system would be available for the PlayStation 5 Pro. The current PS5 comes with a liquid metal compound and a fan. Crazy.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, okay, PS5, it's got really good performance. So if they're going to make this a pro version, how much more performance are they going to need to put in? Probably put in the new AMD chip, which will get them a lot more performance. And if they put in this a water cooling solution, that's going to run the price got to be like 675, 700
Yeah, I
for this.
I think, yeah, I think it's gonna get up there. That's what I'm thinking from a consumer standpoint. I mean, they already have thin margins on consoles, so I would imagine in order to have somewhat of a positive margin on this, it's got to be, I'm gonna call above 7, maybe even 8, 799. That's what I'm calling.
And if you're getting up there, it kind of begs the question, why would you be going with a console and why wouldn't you just go with a PC solution where you could
Yeah,
get more bang
that's
for your buck?
valid.
I mean, obviously you wouldn't get the Sony exclusives, which they have a really good um, exclusive library for single player content, I
Yeah,
would say.
I think that's the main point. It's having easy access and easy experience in the PlayStation Network, whether that's your friends, the games. Uh, yeah, I that's my thought. Like from a UX experience, it's kind of like Apple. Whereas you're with Apple, it may not necessarily be the most economic decision to like buy into Apple's, you know,
Definitely not
their
economic.
their system. Yeah, it's not right. We all acknowledge that. Like Apple, they charge crap ton for their product,
Mm.
but the functionality and the user experience is just really easy. And when you have one piece, you want to get the other ones that align with it in the same system, um, in the same like ecosystem, because they just jive so well together. And that's what I imagine Sony's going to be playing off of. I don't know. We'll see. The
Yeah.
liquid cooling just blows me away. I'm just shocked they're doing that. I just think there's so much risk there.
Yeah. I
Personally,
mean,
I just think there's just so much capability of issues happening.
yeah. I mean, with a liquid cooler, it introduces more points of failure into the system. Air cooling, I mean, it's not as efficient as liquid cooling, but it's more reliable for
Yeah,
sure. And if you can get the job done with an air cooler versus a liquid cooler, definitely say stick with air and instead of liquid cooling. But I
I
guess
agree.
if you're wanting more performance and getting the most out of your performance, you would go with a liquid cooling solution as that does do a better job of dissipating the heat.
Sure. And I understand that. The thing that I think is different is this is not a desktop PC. Desktop PCs are very stagnant. They're not moving. They're not
Right.
switching room to room. You're not taking them, to your friend's house. You're not taking them downstairs to your TV or taking them upstairs to a different TV. Consoles, people move consoles all the time. At least
Yeah.
I move consoles a lot, like well, I move one console a lot, right? And I just feel like that all that movement with a liquid cooling system, I feel like someone's gonna hold it by one hand, and then like it's gonna like crack, I just
Right.
that's what I imagine, and then it's like liquid everywhere. You're done,
Exactly.
fried. So I don't know. We'll see. I bet Sony's not dumb. They kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah, they kind of know what they're doing. I would agree with that. And maybe that they are hoping it breaks because then you'll have to buy another one.
Yeah,
So that way they get their money back on those margins. Nevertheless, yeah, it's interesting. We have seen mid-cycle console refreshes in the past. Uh, and with this generation of consoles, it was a little bit more unique since, they've been extremely hard to get for consumers, that a mid-cycle console refresh seems too soon to me. But maybe not, it's not soon enough for some.
yeah. I think it's too soon. If you look at timing wise by years, I think it's roughly consistent. Um, but for some reason, it just feels too soon. Maybe it's because, like you said, they didn't have enough product in the first place. And so it's almost as if 2 years into the product release, people are finally getting their hands on it. And that really feels like the beginning of the age of that console generation.
Right.
And if you take away 2 years out of the timeline and you start to release another gen, I feel like that's too soon.
I agree.
Um, I wonder what Xbox is going to do in if they're going to match this or if they're just going to say like, "Cool, good for you, Sony. That's fine. You can pump out more consoles and have more sales, but we're going to stick to just the gamer experience and expand our horizon to be more PC and mobile and
Mhm.
whatever." I don't know. I'm curious to see what Xbox does.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see what they do too. My opinion is I think they're really heavily invested into Game Pass, and I think they're going to more put their R&D towards that rather than coming out with a mid-cycle refresh.
I agree.
But
I
maybe
think
they
that
will. I mean, they've at every generation they've seemed to do a mid-cycle refresh that's
yeah.
been fairly successful.
Yeah, that's true. Especially with the last generation. Uh they had the Xbox S and Xbox One X. One
Yeah.
S, One X,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Xbox One, Xbox One S, Xbox One X.
Yeah.
Now it's Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S.
Yeah. Hmm. It'll be probably Xbox Series X Ultra Pro.
Xbox. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like what's going on here? Xbox X Series X.
Ooh.
Anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens, but yeah.
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 All right. Is there anything else you would like to talk about this evening?
I feel like we hit the good stuff. Yeah, I'm cool. I'm good with it.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for listening to our show this evening. We really appreciate all of those that have stuck with us for this long. I know I have met a few of our subscribers that are active listeners, so we really appreciate each of you and supporting our channel. So if you liked it, make sure you hit that like button. If you didn't, that other button seems to do all right. Make sure you send it to somebody that you disliked. As well, always ringling that dingling button so you never miss out on new content as it is added onto the channel. So have a good evening, stay classy, and we'll catch you in the next one.